certified parts of the parachute. The main parachute is not a certified component, so your rigger is not responsible for that basically. The certified components, and if I forget one, somebody let me know. Your harness container is a certified piece of equipment. It's got a TSO label on it, its own serial number, that kind of thing. The reserve canopy is another certified piece of equipment. So you get the harness container, you got the canopy. The ripcord is a certified piece of equipment. The deployment bag or the diaper for round parachutes, and your pilot chute's certified piece of equipment. So those are the legal stuff that your rigger's responsible for, kind of thing. He also checks other things. For example, your cutaway handle is not a certified part. We kind of watch out for that kind of stuff. So that leads me to what does your rigger want when you bring him the rig? Personally, for me, and Jeff, I'd like to know what you feel, and same thing, who was that other guy?
Chris.
I can't remember your name. What was your name again?
Oh, Chris.
Chris, how you like to get your rig? For me personally, I like to get a rig in a gear bag, the whole rig packed up, ready to go. So you get it back that way. A lot of riggers will, they don't want the main, or they don't care what it's in, kind of thing. I like to have the piece of equipment that I'm going to be working on. I like to have the whole thing, so I'm looking at the whole piece of equipment. What do you like, Chris?
I'll take it however you bring it to me, and you'll get it back the way you brought it to me. I prefer not to have the main. As you said, it's not certificated.
Right on.
I'll leave the handle so I can check the length on the cutaway cable.
Yeah, see, so every rigger's a little bit different, so know what your rigger wants. How about you, Jeff? What do you like?
I like it together. I like it.
Yeah.
Don't. People want to pull their handle. Try that. I mean, do that maybe with your rigger, because like I like to see how tight it was before. How's it looking? You might spot something ahead of time before I even put my hands.
Right, and that's kind of that's kind of my feeling as well. Is like I like the main attached because I like to exercise the three rings, make sure the cutaway cable's clean and all that kind of stuff. I like to look at the whole rig. And that's another thing that Jeff brings up. If you haven't pulled your reserve, and I just had this happen a couple of repacks ago, try to do it with your rigger there so he can kind of see what's going on, so we can look at the piece of equipment before we do that. And we like to maybe take some pictures of that kind of stuff. So if you haven't, if you don't have any cutaways, when you take your rig to your reserve, ask him if you can pull the handles. It's very empowering when you know how hard it's going to feel, or how hard it's not going to feel. All right, so I'm going to stimulate a little discussion on some of this stuff. So kind of everybody jump in if you hear something. And if anybody's got a stopwatch or timer, when I get to 20 minutes, tell me to stop. That'll be enough. Storing and transporting your gear. Okay, I'm a big proponent of gear bags. A lot of people, I see them carrying their rigs from their car to the drop zone over their shoulder. That's just fine, but keep your equipment as out of the sunlight as you can, and even sitting in your car, the sunlight might not be on your rig when you leave it there, but it might be when you get back. Does that make sense? So I'm a big proponent of keeping your gear in gear bags. Storing your rig. If you're storing your rig for a long time, especially like in the Northwest where you'll jump in, like the last jump will be in October and you don't jump again until May, keep it in a gear bag. A couple little things that you can do is untuck the tuck tabs, because they'll basically take a shape. Take your pilot chute out of the pouch and leave it out of the pouch, so it doesn't keep that spandex stretch. Does that make sense, you guys? There's a couple little things you can do. Obviously, it works better if you have a gear bag, so it's not laying in the closet next to your rig. So if you're going to store your rig for a long time, I like to take the pilot chute out of the pouch and undo all your tuck tabs. Velcro should stay mated, and magnets should stay mated as well. But those tuck tabs will take a shape, so you can kind of take those things out and let them relax a little bit. Jeff, anything to add to that? Chris?
I just like a climate control environment, like in your home. I recently had a rig that was just stored in a hangar with their airplane, and the moisture started to corrode the metal. Yeah,
and we're going to talk about rubber bands in here a little bit, but believe it or not, there's a rubber band crisis in the industry. But cleaning your rig, okay? What do you like to use for cleaning your rig, Chris?
Woolite.
Yeah, woolite seems to be going. I like Simple Green. Simple Green, you can actually drink it. It's biodegradable. It'll clean everything. if you're going to clean your rig, first of all, let's say you get mud, and everybody slides in every once in a while and gets mud on your rig. Let the mud dry. Don't try to get it off until it's dry. And use a brush and you kind of scrape the big stuff off. I'm just talking about spot cleaning now. And then I spray a little simple green mixed half and half with a soft brush. Just kind of rub it a little bit, it'll lift it out, and then wipe it off with the cloth. So just something you can do for cleaning your rig. Anybody got any questions on cleaning your rig? Does everybody clean their rig a little bit, like if you get a stain on it kind of thing? Or do you pretty much just leave it? Yeah, anyways. No response. Perfect. What are some of the things that damage rigs besides sunlight? Sunlight's probably the big one. Salt water, bug juice, cat pee, that kind of stuff.
Velcro.
Pardon?
Velcro.
Heat cycles.
Pardon?
Heat cycles on your canopies.
Say again?
Heat cycles.
Heat cycles.
Yeah, getting hot.
Yeah,
cold,
that's
hot,
yeah.
cold,
Sunlight's a big one, kind of. Ironically enough, gasoline and oil won't hurt your canopy. You could dip it into a 55-gallon drum of gasoline; it's not hurt it. If you think about it, it's made of the same stuff. Plastic is petroleum-based product. So, but like cat urine, bug juice, blood is bad as well. Salt water.
Anything acidic?
Pardon? Anything acidic, yeah. Or salty, yeah.
Battery.
Pardon?
Yeah, they add
Yeah, I can tell you a story about somebody leaving their rig in a car, in a truck with an old battery, getting into a wreck, and got battery acid got all over the car, stuff like that. So yeah, somebody mentioned where you store your rig, not just where, climate control, all that kind of stuff. So I'm a big proponent of gear bags. If you're storing your rig, don't leave it in the trunk of your car. I mean, everybody's done it a little bit, but that's not a place to store your rig. So everybody kind of knows that. How about untangling a parachute? Anybody ever, like, we've all had step-throughs for it at one point or another. Do you guys untangle your own parachute? And how long does it take you? Is it an issue kind of thing? Was there an untangled parachute? Does everybody know how to do a 4-line check? Your basic 4-line check? Nope. Great. In response to that. Okay. Well, let's talk about some different specific things. Talked about BOC, or bottom container elastic, pilot chute pouch. Stephen, you brought that up as far as your pilot chute pouch. One point I would add to the free fly friendly rig: every rig, if it's maintained correctly, is free fly friendly. The other thing, and Stephen sort of mentioned this a little bit, even if it is free fly friendly, if the BOC elastic's worn out or the plastic's not that little tuck tab thing, if that's not put in right, then it's no longer free fly friendly. Does that make sense, you guys? So just because the rig is, if it's not maintained or if you haven't assembled it correctly, then it's no longer free fly friendly. So just because it says it is doesn't mean it is. Closing loops. Everybody knows at this point there's not supposed to be anywhere at all on a reserve closing loop. And what's the number for main closing? 30%?
10%.
Whatever. Yeah.
Free puzzle strands.
Closing loops, they're free. I'll give them away. If you need a closing loop, come over and I'll make you one right on the spot. They're basically free, so don't neglect your closing loops. If I like to say, if you start seeing anywhere at all on a main closing loop, you might as well replace it. Yeah. The other thing too is I see a lot of closing loops that are too long. Almost universally, everybody's closing loop seems to be too long for me. And they may make it a little easier to pack, but the trade-offs aren't good. That's where you have bridles coming loose. You sit down, you knock the pin loose, something like that. Too short or too long of closing loop. So universally, I see closing loops too long. So watch the length of your closing loop. If it's too easy to pack, it's probably too long. Rubber bands. Does everybody know what's going on with rubber bands in the industry these days? Anybody have any problem with rubber bands? In short, during the pandemic, there's a company called Keener, and they were the ones that made skydiving mil-spec rubber bands forever. And they went out of business. So a company called Alliance, which I just met with the people at PIA last week, they started making them, but they weren't making them the same way. So they were, you get batches of rubber bands, they would break really easy, real soon. Jeff, you're familiar with some of that, right?
Yeah, we went through that with the pandemic.
Right, yeah, and
So
so,
replaced the same rubber band 3 times, just trying to get one good one.
right. Chris, you see that? So it's kind of, it seems like a minor thing, but there's a rubber band crisis in the industry right now. So be aware of your rubber bands. Going from season to season, that's a good time to replace all your rubber bands. Just kind of be aware that your rubber, we think of rubber bands as they're good, and then they break, we throw them away. And that's when we throw them away, when they break. It's just something to watch these days. So watch your rubber bands. Velcro, not much Velcro on rigs these days, but keep an eye on your Velcro. Everybody knows how it's supposed to work, right? Shear, Velcro is supposed to work like this. That's supposed to hold it, this is supposed to let it go. The whole peel and punch kind of thing. So watch your Velcro. If you can just pull it off sideways like this, it's probably time to replace it. That makes sense? Anything to add to Velcro, you guys? Anybody? Watch your bridle, your kill line. As you use your rig, the kill line actually shrinks a little bit. You'll see it start getting fuzzy. So keep an eye on your kill line. Keep an eye on your lower control lines, especially if you have Velcro on your toggles. Somebody mentioned Velcro is really bad for control lines. It is, and you're more likely to see that if you have Velcro on your risers or your toggles. Can you guys see anything else as far as taking care of your gear? How about your 3-ring system? Does everybody know how to put a 3-ring back together? Everybody, pretty much. If you're not sure about it, ask your rear. And again, this is kind of why I like to get the whole rig, make sure all that's done right as well. It seems like it's simple to put together a 3-ring system, and it kind of is, but you can mess it up too. And watch that little loop that goes through the last ring. That'll wear as well. Keep an eye on all that kind of stuff. If you're not sure, ask your rear. That's about all I got. Oh, one last thing. Don't use rubber bands for elastic keepers. Use elastic keepers. And with that in mind, I've made a whole bunch of them up. If anybody wants some free elastic keepers right now, come on again. I'm done.
Sure.
Candy, little girl?
Thank you.
You can take a couple.
Brett,
I've got one.
Brett, you were so fast. No break for you. No break, 1 hour. Instead, we're going to do the plane part. So let me get my slideshow going. The slideshow is going to look like this throughout the entire presentation.
Do you want me to hit next for you?
Would you? Here's the remote. You're in charge. Just wait for me to go. Give Brett just a second here to hand out keepers. It's like candy. Here, little kids, grab your candy.
Daddy has a little present.
Huh? Just like Brett, I'm going to try to keep aircraft safety down to a minimum as well. He did a lot of explaining for some of the stuff. The way I'm going to run through aircraft safety is I'm going to take, oh wait a minute, as soon as Brett's done. Brett? Yeah? Okay? Yeah? All right. So the easiest way to go through aircraft safety is just talk about the skydive and how you're going to do it. And the aircraft safety does not start once you get in the aircraft. Aircraft safety starts whenever you're thinking about making a skydive. So how could that possibly be? Well, you're coming onto a drop zone, you've thought about making a skydive, you get onto the drop zone, there's an airplane, there's propellers. There's your first aircraft safety tip right there. Walking around propellers, whether the engine is running or not, is a bad idea. So let's start with aircraft safety being, what about the aircraft? Propellers, when they're running, you can't see them. They're invisible. So when they're not running. And if everybody looks back at the propeller right now, see how thin they are? They're easy to walk into just as well. So if you stay away from the engines, away from the propellers, when you get onto the drop zone, good idea. You come in and you're planning your skydive. The second part of aircraft safety is doing the mock-up and doing the mock-up with gear. You have to realize that if you have gear on, you've got another 4 to 6 inches behind you that you're not used to having. So people are very conscious and aware of their bodies because we've been using them for so long. I can back up to this table and know that my butt right now is about 1 inch from the table. But if I have gear on, then all of a sudden that spot moves. Same thing's going to be with the door, especially in the beginning of the season, before you've had a chance to make a few jumps, forgetting about your gear. And this is what happened at one time. They got in the airplane and they went, okay, well, I'm going to climb out now. As they climbed out, they ripped the door right off of the hinges because they weren't thinking about their rig. Doing the mock-up, especially with gear on, and I think somebody talked about that, is a good idea, just so that when you get in the airplane and you go to make your jump, that you're aware of how big that door is, what your gear is going to be like as you're climbing out the door, to keep from pulling pins like he was talking about earlier. Okay? So now you've got, on the drop zone, you didn't run into the prop, you got your gear on, you did mock-up, and you did your dive plan, dive flow, okay? Now it's time to actually get on the airplane. So we walk out to the airplane. You've already done your dive flow. You've dirt dived your skydive, and you've already determined where your exit order is. When you walk out to the airplane, try to walk out to that airplane in that exit order. And definitely by the time you're lining up by the door, you should be in that opposite exit order like he was talking, first in, last out. We got out to the airplane, we climbed on, sit down. What's next? Seatbelts. All right, how important are seatbelts? Just like the helmets that he was talking about, without a seatbelt, you're unsecured. And here's what we do as pilots, is we plan for the worst and hope for the best. By planning for the worst, you're going to put your helmet on. You're going to make sure when you climb on the airplane that you're ready to skydive. All right? I've seen people come up with, well, I'm just going to be a little bit loose because when I get in the airplane, then that's when I really like to tighten it up with that final check. Well, the problem is you're not going to have time to do that final check when you climb onto the when we have an emergency. So you want to plan and be ready for an emergency on the airplane just like we are. Okay, and that means being ready to skydive. You were talking about helmets secured on, chest strap, or seatbelt. Part of that being prepared is being prepared for a crash. Now, if an engine quits after takeoff and we get to the end of the runway and we need to put it down in the field at the end of the runway, are you going to have time to take it off of your chest strap and put your helmet on before we're on the ground while everybody's screaming and yelling? Well, the pilot will shut up eventually, but no, you won't. So I recommend, and I'd even go further than a recommendation, put your helmet on for safety. Not only that, now you're ready to skydive. So if the engine quits at, say, 2,000 or 3,000 feet, and we're going, hey, let's lighten up this load because I got one engine that's still running and I can maintain altitude, so I'm going to fly over the top and everybody get out, you're all set to go. Your gear's on, your helmet's on, you're ready to go. Okay? So just take that into consideration. Helmets on are a good idea. Also, we're really good pilots, but sometimes we fly in really bad air. And taking off the end of the runway and we get a little gust or a wind shear, and all of a sudden, boom, you're up in the ceiling. No helmet, that's where your head's going to go. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. Now let's see. We're climbing to altitude. We should probably all be talking and not paying attention, and you don't need to worry about anybody else's gear, right? Because you really just need to worry about your stuff. Okay, I'm really good at sarcasm.
That's sarcasm.
And sometimes that doesn't translate well. What I want to point out now is awareness of what's going on around you. Usually, growing up, I grew up in skydiving. I've been around it since I was about 8 years old. I started jumping when I was 16. Got about 10,000 or so skydives, about 13,000 hours flying airplanes. So I've been around the sport a long time. And one of the things I've noticed in the sport is there tends to be, once you have your rig on and your jumpsuit on, that your IQ goes down about 50 points. First thing. Okay? And if you don't believe me, look around next time you're skydiving with somebody and you'll notice that their focus goes like this. What am I doing right now? Because nothing else matters. Okay? What I want you guys to do this year is I want you to open up your focus. Look around at things other than what you are doing. And what that's going to do, I just realized I was wearing sunglasses throughout this whole thing. What this is going to do is going to allow you to be able to see other people's problems. And if I'm watching out for you, and you're watching out for him, and he's watching out for me, what's all happening here? Now we're not focused in on ourselves and what our gear is. All right, yeah, all my stuff's ready. Okay, I'm ready to skydive. But now you're also looking at who you're jumping with. How's his gear? Is this 3-ring? I'm going to give a quick story. I was in the airplane. I've been jumping all day. And I sat down across from my buddy, Artie. He's on the other side of me, and we're talking, what have you. He looks over and goes, dude, that doesn't look right. I said, what are you talking about? I looked over, and I had just taken off my canopy that morning, and I'd put it on, made 2 or 3 jumps. We were up for the next skydive, and what I'd done is I'd run both rings of my 3-ring through the big ring. And the 3-ring was wrong. If I'd tried to cut away, I would have drugged that all the way to the ground, probably. But I never looked at it, but my buddy across from me did. And I take that back. I did look at it. I went, yeah, looks good, right? Because that's what we do. Yeah, yeah, okay, everything's good. Let's go. Sometimes you can see on other people's rigs things that you can't see on your own rig. Anybody caught a misrouted chest strap? Anybody caught somebody else with a misrouted chest strap? Okay, that's people looking out for other people. Brett?
Yeah, I was going to say, while you're expanding that vision and awareness, also look out the window. Look out the window of the airplane. What would you do if you had to get out right now?
Know where you're at. We used to have people go, hey, can you let us know when we're 2 minutes out? I said, yeah, when you hit 12,000 feet on your altimeter, you're 2 minutes out. Okay, why do I have to tell you? Be aware of your surroundings. What altitude you're at. What altitude, have a plan. What altitude are you going to start checking your gear? What altitude are you going to do your do your dirt dive in the airplane with your buddies? And here's a big one, and we're talking about pet peeves, right? Here's a big one, for me anyway. You get down with your dirt dive, and we're getting ready to go on jump run, and everybody's got a high five fist bump, high five fist bump, high five fist bump, and I got people that go from the back of a twin otter to the front of the twin otter, high five fist bump, high five fist bump, yeah, high five fist bump. What's that person doing?
Changing the load balance.
He's moving around. He's also changing our weight and balance. Does everybody know what weight and balance is and why it's important in aircraft? If anybody doesn't, raise your hand right now. So I can ask you, anybody in here, I can ask them a question about weight and balance and they know what it is? That's the way I was looking for right there. Weight and balance is the airplane has a pivot point called the weight balance point, okay? Center of gravity. If you start loading up the back of the airplane, back where the door is, that center of gravity moves toward the back in order to keep that weight and balance correct, okay? So while you're loading the aircraft, you don't want to run about 4 or 5 people, and I think Brett maybe talked about 2 people sitting on the bench in the back, and the reason you don't do that is it puts extra weight in the back, which really lightens up the front, and that's why we have a balanced load. It's also important to let the people know, let the pilots know when you're doing a big way, so that we can plan for having that extra weight in the back, and when it starts moving toward the back, we can push the nose down in order to compensate for that weight, okay? Also, we can speed up. We can also do a couple other things if you're taking too long, getting off the airplane, okay? So that's why it's important to let the pilot know about at that, and about weight and balance. Does that make sense about weight and balance? Okay. If anybody has questions about any of this, you can ask Tim or I anytime you want. Where are we at? High five and fist bumps. The idea is not to move around too much while you're in the airplane so that you're not risking your pins being removed inadvertently. You're not bumping into other people. You don't accidentally oh, sorry about that. Oh shit, did I just pull your reserve because I was holding on to something? Because I was wanting to move around? So think about that when you're doing the high fives and fist bumps in the bag. So let's not move around too much. But now we're on jump run. And it's time to go. You've done your gear check. You've done maybe a little eyeing around to see if you can catch somebody fucking up, or all adults here. Okay.
Ish.
And the idea is to look for the worst, and if you don't find it, then expect the best. So you go to make your skydive. We've already practiced in there. We're doing the climb out. Everybody look back at the airplane. I want you to look and see how low that tail is. I want you to think about where that door is and where that tail is in relation to the door. And from the door to the tail is only about 7 feet, I think. It's not very far away. So this is especially for the wingsuiters, that they need to keep their wings in until they can see the airplane. Okay? How many wingsuiters? Wingsuiters, yeah? Oh. Anybody else want to talk about wingsuiter exits to do it safely?
I will.
I love it.
So like he said, keep your wing closed till you clear the door, and also angle your exit towards the wheel. If you're going down instead of hopping out, you're gonna get a much better
Chance of missing that tail because you're going to be going down instead of opening up and a little bit and come up to that tail. Tail strike is real scary for us because even though y'all can get out and jump, we don't have rigs, so we're stuck with whatever you leave us with. Here's another one on the exit side of it is if there's a problem in the back, say a premature deployment, especially if that deployment and maybe the parachute hits the wing or hits the tail and then bounces off and then leaves. This is what we feel up in the front. Oh, there's an exit. What the fuck was that? And that's when the parachute hit the tail. And this has happened to me. This is why I'm bringing it up. So I was on a load in Otter, and they were doing exits, and it was the last two groups getting out. It was a 4-way and then a 5-way. And the 4-way, they climb out in the door. The 5-way is getting ready to go. And the 4-way exited. It was a premature deployment. He hit the wing. I got that big bang. I was like, holy shit, what happened? And I look over my shoulder, and they're looking out the door like, oh. And they're going to go. And they left. Cool, right? Everybody gets out of the airplane. No problem. Me as the pilot, I'm up front, and I'm going, did they rip off my tail? What kind of situation have I got here? I know they hit something, but then they all panicked and dove out, and I had no clue whether I had an operating airplane or not. Communication's a key. It would have taken 5 seconds for somebody to come up and go, hey, everything's cool, they hit the tail, but everything looks fine, we're gonna leave. Cool, I know I'm all right, or at least potentially, I know I'm all right. Okay? Communicating with the pilot and the pilot communicating back. Who's going to get that? God, I'm still cold.
Well, that could have been the difference between you having a landable plane and not having a landable plane when everybody moves to one spot in it. That was kind of the speculation about the incident at PMW, is that if everybody didn't stay on the plane like they did and they all tried to exit at once, that could have caused them to lose control because everybody landed with the plane in that incident.
So once again, we're opening up awareness, we're opening up communication, and that goes forward and backwards, okay? So who talks to the pilot? So we've got a plane, Brett?
Keep going, I'm just gonna add something at the end.
Okay, all right. So communication to and from the pilot when the plane is full and everybody's sitting down, the person that is sitting behind the co-pilot seat is the communications person. So you don't want to put a tandem student or a tandem AFF student in that spot. You want somebody that's experienced. So if you're doing a jump and you're inexperienced, don't sit behind, unless you want to be the communications director for the whole airplane, don't sit behind the co-pilot seat. Because when I talk to somebody, I'm going to talk to that person.